Hi everybody, welcome to the Finance This Property That podcast. My name is Dion Fernandes and I am a mortgage planner and finance professional. My goal is to empower financial legacies for generations, and I look to do this by using my over 13 years experience in finance and having special guest speakers like financial planners, accountants, buyer's agents, family lawyers who are experts in their field to provide knowledge and free education. And without further ado, let's get into our episode today. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Finance This Property That. It's a different one today. I've got more than one person with me. I have three guests and they're all specialists in their field. So I have a real estate agent, a builder, and an interior designer, along with me, a finance specialist. Yes, that sounds like a start of a great joke, but I don't have any good jokes, so we'll leave it up to these guys. So I'm going to get them all to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they do and why they love what they're doing, and a little snapshot, something quirky about them, because I've just learned quite a few quirky things that if they don't say it, I will. So all good. All right. Oh, I'm not looking at you.
No, not me at all.
No. Or you, Shane. No. I got nothing on Henry, but that's all good. Henry, we'll start with you.
Right. So I'm a residential real estate agent with Remax Revolution. And what makes me very different is that over 89% of my contracts are cash unconditional. So I deal with people of intergenerational wealth. So what I find is that a lot of the times when people buy properties, unfortunately, they have to buy subject to finance. So subject to finance also means subject to valuation. I'm here to remove that. So I'm the guy that actually brings interstate and overseas buyers to compete with the local buyers that can pay more money.
Oh, cool. Shane?
G'day.
Away you go.
Fabulous.
Now,
I said g'day because I just got my passport a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, now, and also if you haven't noticed, Shane's got an accent. There's no translator here today, so the subtitles, if you're reading it, may not be as accurate, right?
Just don't say
disclaimer.
They'll just come up under my chin. Yeah, I'm Shane. I'm on Collaborate Construction. We're a custom home build and renovation company. We build beautiful homes for busy professionals in the Brisbane area. So set up the company in just about 7 years ago. And what I really like doing is working with clients from the very beginning and helping to take them on that journey from the initial concept stage right through to completion, and doing as much as we can to make that as smooth a process as possible.
Yes, because building can be a bit of a anxious process, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things that is, in many people's lives, it's one of the largest investments they'll ever make.
Yep.
And if people haven't necessarily built previously, a lot of people buy their first home is going to be a pre-built product. Yep. So either they're going through a renovation or substantial renovation of a property, or they are building something new from scratch, and they don't know what they don't know. So that can be really stressful for a lot of people. So by being open and honest and transparent and trying to help people along the way and alleviate that stress and make it as easy a process as possible.
Yep. Cool. Lucky last but not least, Rebecca.
Thanks.
Over to you.
Thank you. So I'm Rebecca Lowe. I have a company called the Little Shop of Colours, and we're a full interior design service. So we complete interior designs in the residential space, from small renovations up to new builds in the luxury market and into small commercial projects as well. So cool. Yeah, so in the business sense, I love what I do because the base construct knowledge going into full sort of internal layouts, joinery, finishes, so everything from that joinery through to selections process, through to all the finishing schedules and plans that we then provide and put through to the builders so that they can do their full level quoting and estimation of what that's going to look like for the build process. And in the heart space, I just absolutely love making houses a home for clients and just helping them through that journey and really just listening and intrinsically hearing how they live, how they function. It's not just about, style and form and finish. It's all about what the client wants and how they live.
Cool. Here's a question though. As an interior designer, is your house designed? Because it's the same, right? Like you do. It's like a finance. Like I know that I structure my finance basically on a high level, very similar to how I'd actually help my clients. So as an interior designer, is it?
It's a bit of a hybrid. I've got one of those houses that if a client saw it, I'd probably die inside. But also I live in a semi-rural setting. So I live on acreage. I have a bit of a modern farmhouse vibe going. So that's obviously a very specific look. Also have 3 children. So we often are crafting things and hanging things on walls. So, have done and completed renovations and probably go in that modern farmhouse vibe.
Cool.
But there's also an eclectic mix because I live in the home with my family.
And snakes.
And snakes.
Oh.
And snakes. So
Snakes, cows, dogs, cats, chickens, hens.
Yes. And if you want a free pony, I can hook you up.
Well, Shane just moved down the road, so I think he's gonna in for a pony.
Housewarming gift on your way.
Oh,
Yeah.
Actually, Luke, I know a guy. Luke might want a pony.
Done.
He's putting his hand up over there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sold.
See?
Sold.
We're all here collaborating on how we can sell animals. But look, I guess the main reason why I got all you guys here is you guys are experts in your field in obviously different spaces. But a lot of my clients, or a lot of your clients as well, are in that development mindset or Lux build mindset. And there's a few holes when I go through it from a finance point of view, and when I get into the nitty gritty where I'm not kind of an expert about how to build a house. I'm certainly not handy. I have a drill, but I'm definitely not handy. My artistic eye is whatever. Like I know I had brown feature walls, which are not brown anymore. They are painted.
It's coming back.
And don't tell me that. And I wouldn't know how to sell a property, right? So, but I do know how to structure finance, right? And I guess, where I fit in the process, I would say I'm quite early in the process. For you guys to be able to do your job effectively, right, you need to know what budgets we're working on, right? So I also have a little bit of I love development as well. So I look at, will this work with the numbers? Who are you seeing? Credibility of the builder is quite important. Who's selling the property? What's the exit strategy? When are you engaging? If it's a high-end home, what other professionals are you actually engaging to get the outcome you want? Because you're telling me $4.5 million, but is that really, how do you know what are you doing to ensure that you're going to get that value? So what I'm going to ask you guys today is around where you guys fit in, what tactics you use, not tactics, but what conversations you have, and what some of the pain points in your role, right? So done the finance, we've gone up, we're going to go to, let's go, we're going to go find a builder. Shane, you're coming in.
Yep.
Right? Tell us a little bit about the conversation you have with clients and some of the sticking points and sort of how you overcome some of those weird, I guess, awkward conversations, and make expectations what reality is versus expectation versus reality.
Yeah, sure. Well, the first part, I think you nailed it, is that for a fairly substantial number of people, finance is the first point of call, because you need to know what funds you're playing with. There's no point discussing a $1.5 million build if somebody's capacity is only 700K.
And they're two very different builds.
And they're two very different builds, very different areas. So if they're not going to get the funding or finance to be able to achieve what they want to achieve, it's a moot point, and they're just going to spend a lot of money getting plans drawn, engineering, all the things required to get a detailed quote, and find that they can't proceed at that point. So by having that upfront conversation from a financial perspective, and then being quite transparent, I think that the transparency and the honesty from the very early stage of the project journey with all stakeholders is really important. Even example where working with a developer at the moment who has quite a difficult site. It's got a fairly substantial slope on the site, and the designs that have been done for that so far just won't work. They don't take advantage of the views. They're not taking advantage of or incorporating design elements there to mitigate that risk. So having that conversation up front and going, well, okay, where are you at financially? Where are you at from a build point of view? What's your expectations and anticipated costs going to be for this? And then starting to work from that point.
Yeah, it's like that feasibility study, right?
Yeah, it's like fees are right up front.
And where are you getting the money? Because I ask all those questions up front. Like if it's a project home, you're normally not going to the bank to fund a project build, right? Because they are quite on the higher side, talking about 1 million plus.
Yep.
So what happened with that client in the end, I guess?
Yeah, well, so with that client, we're working through them. We've given them some suggestions, again, in that space. And when you start to go into that more luxe market, I'd suggest choosing builder and then deciding on architect, designer, and which path to go down in that particular, which direction to go.
Yeah.
So a very high-end quality architectural designer that may specialize in specific types of buildings may be an appropriate fit for a particular site, whereas just going to an architect because you know them doesn't necessarily mean they're going to give the best product. So if you've got somebody that specialises in sort of Queenslanders and Queensland lookalikes and that space, they're not necessarily going to be somebody that you want to do something that's a mid-century modern or something that's an ultra-modern design.
Yeah. How do you, as a builder, because, I think there's a lot of, clients on the market at the moment, they've got one build contract and then it just blows up. You've just said around transparency. So what's your process around how do you manage the expectation versus reality? Like, they think they're coming in with, I'm budgeting a $1 million build, but it's actually going to be a $1.3 million build. And how do you talk them through the methodology behind that, right?
Yeah, sure. So whilst loath to do so, utilising sort of square meters rates as a very broad brush approach up front gives us an overall indication of what the sort of footprint is that we need to be working towards. That's number one.
Yep.
Then it's a matter of our fixtures, our finishes, our level of detail, our complexity of build. So you might have a 200 square meter build that's a rectangular box, or you're going to have a 200 meter build that's angular and lots of curves and form, and one will be double the price of the other because of those intricate elements that are in the build form. I suppose touching base on if somebody's doing it from a development point of view, the steps would be, all right, organise an initial upfront concept design, then come up with a very high level budgetary estimation on that basis.
Yep.
And then it's touching base with, Henry, to get an indication of what that's going to then hold in the market.
Yeah, correct. Because that's one of the things I feel that again, they don't engage an agent early enough. They're just going off realestate.com. But what they don't hear is what the actual customer sentiment is. So moving over, I guess, just straight because we've brought Henry into the conversation, right? What, how do you fit in with the build? Like, what's your methodology, I guess, working with the builder?
Actually, at the end of the day, it depends on the purpose. If you're actually looking to develop, build to sell, but even if you're looking to build to keep, at some point in time you want to sell. So you need to have who the end buyer is in mind, and you need to build in a way that actually suits the end buyer.
That's a really great way to think about it, right?
Yes, even if you want to keep, because at some point in time, 3 to 5 years time, if you build it to a specification that is so unique to you, your pool of buyers is very, very, very small. So when you want to sell in 3 to 5 years time, you're going to have a hard time selling.
Yeah.
Right. I suppose that is a substantial distinction between somebody that is buying with the intent to sell or from a development point of view, or somebody who's building something for their ever home.
Yeah.
So if it's a forever home, then the level of engagement up front is going to be an awful lot more. It's when, Rebecca's going to get involved and from a delivery point of view, is going to be much more heavily involved within the initial design concepts and the design conversations.
Yeah, and I guess, just off the back, building it with who the seller is in mind, or is you forever. I'm like, what's the difference of conversation in those two? Because they're two very different conversations, right?
Yeah. So to be honest, it's like we treat every home. So we're talking with that client, we're seeing how they live, and we're giving them all of that function. If it's a family and they're living there, a potential end buyer is still going to be potentially a family and the like. So always, even if it is a forever home situation, we've got return on investment in the back of our minds the whole time.
Yep.
So I've had experiences where I've walked in and, the facade of the home and the architecture of the home isn't going to suit the style of what they're aiming for and where they're looking to go. So it's a conversation I need to have with them very carefully, where I sort of say, professionally, I need to have this conversation to explain, if you put this investment in and go with this direction in style and finish and where you want this to look and how, it might not fit with the architecture and overall style. So I'm a little bit concerned about what that return will look like at the end.
Yep.
If they still want to pursue that, that's completely fine. But I'm not doing my job if I don't have that conversation.
Correct.
So
yeah, totally fine. And so where in the process do you get involved? I guess, like, is it during the planning phase or?
Yeah, like fairly early on. The reasoning being, so essentially it goes, town planner, engineer, and then Shane will get involved, and we've got marketing and sales and things always happening in the background. Yes. So ultimately, we all need to be there from the outset. And what happens then is, if you've got an architect who's designed something and then the builder comes in, like, Shane has to construct that. So he has to know what's happening, which is why you were sort of mentioning earlier, it's really imperative that everyone is aware of how this is going to look and what the outcome's going to be. And if I'm coming in at that outset as well, I'm doing when I'm doing all the internals, for example, or the joinery or those selections, and I'm working to a budget, I need to know what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
And Shane can't actually give the actual finite quote until he has all of that and all the finishing schedules have been signed off. So I can't, waiting for sort of the architect to come out with initial designs and then builder and then interior design doesn't really work as well as everyone coming in, collaborating together and communicating and working as a team.
Yeah. And I think that's where one of the sticking points, right? In some of these, they don't talk to each other.
Yeah,
all the
100%.
moving parts. I think that's where we were having that a lunch together, and that was clearly abundant. Like, there's not a lot of that communication going on with other parties that need to be involved, or no one knows who's doing what next, and slows the project down. It costs money.
12 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, again, we're doing another project at the moment. Interior designers come in, and with the best will in the world, not everybody has 100% track record of what they're doing is the right design. Like, somebody else has a look at it from a different perspective and goes, hey, why don't you do this? And it's like, actually, that works much better. So we're doing one at the moment, and it's created a 6-week delay because the designers come in and said, hey, why don't we do this? And it was like, actually, that works much better for the overall built form. Yeah. The clients loved it, and they're like, yeah, okay, let's do it. But in order to then make those changes has now resulted in that sort of 6-week delay. So,
but that's why you collaborate, right? Because if we're looking at the end result in mind, we've got to get that right. And I think the planning stage is so important, because once it's being built, that's going to cost you even more money to change something while mid-construction, right? Yep. And then that actually devalues the property a little bit, because you're sinking more money in to add value. But if you actually did it before and actually everyone talked. Because I think one of the key things that are missing is around that. Let's all get together in front of, I don't see, I like to do that. I deal with financial planners, accountants, client, myself, when I do my strategies, and it works really well. And last week I just had a meeting with a private funder, their head of investment, their head of credit, and the head of brokerage, and then my clients. And we all just sat around a round table and came up with the actual end finance solution. We had a mud map. We talked about it. And without having that conversation, we got it done before we actually funded anything, right? Because it costs money.
Yeah.
Holding costs, trade costs, then the delays, like, oh, well, if we're 6 weeks out, we've got to push the start 6 weeks out, right? So
I think the other thing is the removal of ego. So that can be a bit of a handbrake. So
yeah,
when you've got people genuinely prepared to work together and take that level of criticism, especially up front in the design space, in the design phase, I think you get a much better product because you know everybody has a part to play. Like an architectural firm, you know, if there's a couple of architects working together, they might do, you know, 10, 12, 14 projects in a year, whereas, you know, Bex might do 50, 60 projects. So from a point of view of getting that feedback about, especially in the development space, what's on song, what's going to sell, what are people looking for in the current market trends, because that's what you're going to be selling into.
Yeah.
There's a value add there from a different space that's not always thought about.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, through the changes as well, if we're all, like, let's say we're all sitting around a table, you know, the end result is, if we're doing a project, is to get the maximum return on investment, right?
For sure.
Yep.
Right. But also the maximum return on, if you're building it as your current home to live in and then eventually on sell it, just peace of mind too. I think that's quite important. Saving money, you know, we don't want to spend unnecessary money, but also reality comes in as if are we spending money in the right way to have the good outcome at the end? So having someone like Henry there sitting there going, oof, guys, I've seen this, like it's probably not, you know, in this suburb, and you're doing this, it's already unique. You might not do that. You might not fetch the value that you want. So is that a fair comment?
That is a fair comment, but also what I see is that time is money. Every delay costs money in terms of holding costs. And sometimes most of this delay is actually communication.
Yeah.
I can tell you, look, I've spoken to you, Bex, I've spoken to you, Dion and Shane. When I call you, you pick up the phone, you call me back the same day. You have no idea the amount of times when I call builders, I'm lucky if I get a call back in 2 weeks. No joke. In the past, I don't want to send them clients. They just don't call back, right? Same with interior designers and some financials as well. Like, it's just, you know, if you call back the same day, when there's this flow of communications, it shortens the process.
Yeah.
It helps the client.
Yeah.
That's why I have no problems recommending you, because you actually call back.
Yeah. And that's, you know, one of the things when you look at people leaving Google reviews that aren't great, it's like, oh, there's poor communication.
Yep.
That's one of the key things. And when you're spending millions, right, may not be lots to some people, but like, you know, every day, you know, you're spending millions, you're emotionally invested in it. It's actually quite stressful. You know, we're here to kind of alleviate that one thing we're good at. You only have to be good at your job, right?
Yes.
And communicate that. And then that's one less thing.
But also what I've found is that with like all of us is we are very direct with our clients. There are a lot of people who like to sugarcoat things. So I would rather tell you the uncomfortable truth than comfort you with a lie.
Yeah.
It's all about solutions, isn't it? It's sort of, again, it's when the problems, there's always going to be problems that come up. It's near impossible to have a seamless construct build phase the whole way through, and finance siding, all of that. But transparency, communication from all parties, even, you know, the developer or purchaser or the homeowner, like it's imperative, because otherwise we can't all continue through. But like I think at the end of the day, it's like what Henry said before, time is money, and regardless, it's like you can be losing thousands a day if we are not all on song.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I know it's hard to check your ego, right? But that's one thing we're all like, well, you're good at your job, I'm good at my job. I'm not ever going to tell someone that if I'm not doing their job, I won't tell you how to do your job. Like, that's what you get paid to do, right? How you finding with trade? Like, you know, once you're in the project, we're in there, right? From what my understanding of the planning, once we've done the planning, yes, we're going to have bumps in the road. Like this, I've done 2 builds and they've never gone smoothly. But it wasn't an unexpected, like, we weren't ever told that it was going to go perfectly, right? With Utopia, it goes perfectly, but Is it pretty like you guys get project manage it quite well? Is that what you do, or do you get someone else to project manage the build as well? Or
Yeah, no. So we've got a couple of site supervisors that oversee the individual projects, and then we'll outsource the different subcontract trades. So the plasterers, the painters, the concreters, and whatnot, and then manage and quality check those guys.
yeah, because I think that's one big thing that's come up in some of these conversations I'm having with some of the private funders. They actually want every month, is it on track? We're giving you the money. Is your project on track?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
finding solutions to
Yeah.
problems and doing it immediately and acting upon it, not doing the finger pointing game and silliness. It's like call builder, designer, whoever needs to be called to make any change or what the requirement is, and let's troubleshoot it now.
Yeah, it's who, not the how.
Yeah.
Like who needs to actually do that? Who's
Yeah.
responsible for it? And again, if we, the ones that work the best, right, is I think I had one where I was every couple of weeks, we just all got on a phone call together. Hey, what's going on? Where are we up to? Clients there, got any questions? Bang, nah, cool. I've done my part. You won't hear from me for X amount of time. Great. Next step is this, this, and this. This is what we need to do. And everyone goes away, and then the emails communicate. That's just pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Right. Henry, I just want to throw to you, got the project going, right? Going. When do you start, or when do you feel would be the best time to start let's say it's a sell.
Right.
We're doing a project to sell
Yep.
Lux home, whatever. When do you feel it's time to start building up the excitement?
A few weeks before it's actually completed. Because what I found that these days, a lot of buyers and a few buyers that I've dealt with, they've actually engaged a builder and they literally went broke. They lost a couple $100,000, but fortunately for the buyers that I deal with, they have the money, they're not going to go broke. So they prefer to buy something that's already a complete finished product.
Yep.
Yeah, because they know that it's already done. They don't have to chase up the builder in case something goes wrong.
Yeah, right. And then you've also got because when I built my two places, I couldn't visualize what it would actually look like. That part of my brain doesn't work that well. But if someone can actually visualize it and see what it actually looks like, pretty much at the end result, that's easier. It's an easier sell to someone,
easier,
right?
that's correct. They can see it, they can touch it,
Feel it,
they can
yeah.
walk through it. It's much easier, yes.
Yeah.
But you're also going to have, so like in the design phase, so you're going to have obviously all the architectural, visual, 3D from the exterior, but then we're doing all full coloured renders, and that's down to every
And
finish.
that's
So
what you guys yourself do. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
right,
So
yeah.
it's down to the lighting, it's down to the handle, every finish, every surface is exactly as you're going to see it. So agents can actually use it as a marketing material because they're that true to what it's going to look like and those renders.
Ah, right. Okay. So you're already sort of planning the journey for the potential sale or
Correct.
hold or down the track. This is what it's going to look like.
Yeah. So you can start using it as marketing material, but it's also just getting that kind of feel and that interest and things like that. But it's then when the buyer's comfortable and ready to like push the green light.
Yeah.
But that's all already in place back at design phase.
Yeah. And I guess, you go. Sorry.
So for me, the majority of real estate agents, they whack the property online and they hope to God that the buyer comes. I'm serious. They're going to pray and so hopefully someone comes from the common domain. So I'm actively engaging people that deals with very high net worth people. So I deal with Porsche dealerships. I deal with the heads of private banks, people that are stockbrokers, wealth advisors. So they have clients that are looking to buy. I'm always building a network of buyers. Now these buyers may not have heard of Brookfield. I literally introduce them to Brookfield, which a typical real estate agent prays to God that someone wants to type in Brookfield on realestate.com and buys a property. So does that make sense?
Yep.
So I'm always constantly building my network of buyers.
It's being proactive.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's instead of reactive. Oh, there's a house on the market. Here's the link to realestate.com. Let's just get it done. Do you want to buy it?
Yes. And also with the developers, see where you come in, Dion, is that you actually understand feasibility. You see, the majority of brokers don't understand that. They can't talk that language. So I believe in horses for courses, people that are really specialized in their field like what you do. It's very easy for me to introduce developers to you.
Yeah. And I think, I have that, I think from this conversation that we've had, it's a very similar methodology that I use for all my finance strategies as the go slow to go fast approach, right? because going fast at the beginning is not where you actually get the outcome. The planning, right down to the color, the lighting, the amount of concrete we need, the finishes, and the right buyer. Are you actually is the building contract and all your design work equal $4 million, or are we actually really talking $3.5 million? Making sure it's all set up before you break ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no one wants a variation, right?
Oh God!
And that was going to be your worst. That's about to be
yes.
like your worst.
It's my worst.
Yeah.
And I hate it because I'm very much, I'm like, are you happy with this? Because once I get the valuation done and once we fund the money, any change, that's on you. And I'm always, I had a client just recently just go, I want to trying to build 2 properties, but then also wants to buy this next one. I'm like, well, do you have enough money? Forget about whether you can afford it. Do you have enough money for any change that could potentially happen during that construction process, or even before, because you haven't, the 1 into 2 subdivision and you're building 2 houses? Where's the money going to come from? Came back to me 2 days later and goes, I need to cool my jets, don't I? Like, yeah, one thing at a time, because you don't have cash flow at the moment. So, it's being that trusted advisor. And again, but mate, no one likes variations, and you want to minimize your variations,
No
right?
one wants them. Yeah.
100%, and but it also speeds up the process. So by having detailed fixtures, finishes schedule, and we know what we're doing right at the commencement, we can order those with sufficient lead times to ensure they're on site when we need them. So we're going off a schedule. We've got a Gantt chart. We know when things are supposed to happen. Yes, rain may happen. We might push out by a week or 2, but it's not the point. The point is that we have our products. We've got our cabinet maker in and booked in and scheduled for a specific time, which is going to be 9 months, 10 months down the track from initial contract stage. But by having all of that documentation up front, just speeds up that process.
Planned, ready, and there potentially could be a plan B if plan A fails, sort of thing as well, right?
Yeah, but I mean, most times plan A will actually pretty much work right as long as it's been done properly. Yeah. And it's had sufficient attention and detail put to it.
Yep. And everything's been communicated properly and everyone knows where their role is. Yeah, cool. Just one question I had around the cost of building at the moment, right? That's that's gone up. We all know that.
Yeah.
Right. I guess the cost of material at the moment, is that still quite high, or what are you seeing? Because you're that's
on
you.
a coal face. Look, the cost of material, when you say is it high, I mean, by comparison to what? By comparison to 3 years ago, then yes, it is. But I've never known a supplier to go too far backwards in their pricing, so I don't really see it.
They want to make money, right?
Yeah, they're going to make money, and so I imagine that material costs are going to stay pretty much stable or relatively stable in this current market. Labour costs are also sort of stable at the moment.
Because they were they went and then went up because of the shortage, right? So
we do have a supply and demand situation at the moment. And that's not going to get any easier anytime soon. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. There's a productivity factor that's come into play. It doesn't matter. We speak to solicitors, you speak to accountants, and the actual output that people are getting from their staff and employees and across the board is less than it has been previously. We've had 10% of the industry approximately leave during COVID, and an awful lot of those people were the ones with the experience and the knowledge. So you've got a lot of younger people in the industry that don't necessarily have the breadth of knowledge and experience, which is really required in that higher end space.
Yeah. I guess you've got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. Yeah, that's right. But it's more that you've got the older heads have left.
Yeah.
You've got to change in the training systems and how things have been, but it's probably a different time for a different podcast. It's not this one.
Yeah, we could go on. I think we could
go down that word. You could go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I suppose from where we're at now, year on year, potentially 5%. So having a conversation with someone the other day, by the time we start getting onto that project and do designs and engineering and whatnot, it's going to be 6 to 8 months from now.
Yep.
He's got a build factor contingency worked in there.
Yep.
And then we're looking at a cost escalation somewhere in the vicinity of 5%. That if
Yep.
he allows 5% in the FISO,
Yep.
and then allows for a 5% contingency for other stuff,
Yep.
then that should see him right.
Yes, and back to the contingencies and the feasibility, that's one of the things no one put, no, not no one, like there's a lot of that stuff missing. It's like, what's the fallback plan? Like that could be your build price. I'm always building, I normally do 5 to 7.5, depending on the type of build. Like I'm not a builder, right? Like, but I know that a funder will build that in automatically.
Yep.
So I'm playing like 2 steps ahead. And it's really important because you don't know, and that also covers your backside for variations a little bit too, right? And overall profit at the end, if you're going to sell it, overall profit at the end, making sure you don't go over budgets and things like that.
You don't know what you don't know. You know, you start to do a job, you've had a couple of soil tests, there's a couple of test holes being done, and by the time you actually do your site works and site excavation, the next thing you find is a water, there's a spring in a corner. Or you find
Swimming pool?
no, just a
Yeah.
constant water source in a corner, which is an underground, some sort of underground water source, and then you've got to spend a lot of time to try and actually, and time is money,
Not oil.
and you got to try and cap that leak.
Sounds like sounds like the intro to the Beverly Hillbillies. Right? They've sprung oil.
Sprung oil, yeah, that'd be preferable, but yeah, it's not Evian.
No, damn it. You can't turn it into a water feature.
No, well, the other one is when you're doing your knockdown rebuilds, you know, when you come in and you demolish a house and get rid of it and the site's cleared, and you start digging your footings and you realise then that 600 down there's buried asbestos from the previous renovation that was done, you know, 30 years earlier.
Well, I think it's better than a snake's nest.
Yeah. I don't know.
I got it in there.
At least asbestos will kill you in 20 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
A snake will kill me now just with a heart attack.
Up to 23 young per snake
23.
in one.
Oh, no. Pass. Yeah, I'm with Henry. I don't like snakes either.
So stay away from my property between about September and November.
Yeah. Unless you're coming to take the horse.
I take it
Yeah,
today.
take the horse. Yep. Luke's we've
And
already.
the cow.
Yeah. Oh, you nearly ran over the cow, didn't you, the other day? Oh, jeez. Betsy.
Do my best. Put it back in the paddock.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, look, we can go on. There's actually quite a bit of content for another get together, and I'm sure we'll have some more stories because you'll have a couple of projects finished. I know you're doing a couple of big projects. You're always selling property, and I'm always financing. So, you know, I think there'll be room for some more chat. But I think this is a really good start. You know, the one thing that we want to take out of it, collaboration. Get a team that's actually going to talk to each other and put their egos aside. Sound fair?
Yep.
Yeah. Make sure you understand what you're actually getting yourself into early.
Yep.
Rather than, I've broken ground. Oh, crap, I didn't know I was up for like another $500,000, right? No surprises. Planning's important, and getting the right team behind you is super important. And just taking the ego out of it, right? Work together. We're all here to help. Anything else to add?
No, I think you nailed it.
Yeah. Measure twice, cut once.
That's it. So everyone, thanks for listening today. So just like to mention that all the information on this show is very general in nature, doesn't take into consideration any of your current financial or financial circumstances. Please seek guidance from a professional in their field. Again, guys, what I want you guys to do now before we go, we don't advertise. We don't pay for advertising. All the information on this podcast is free. So if you as listeners have learnt anything or see value or want to strike up a conversation, please go add these guys on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. They're about to tell you where soon. If you want to follow the podcast at Finances Property That, we're on Apple, Spotify, all your majors, YouTube, if you want to look at our pretty faces. I'm a Dion Finance Specialist on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Dion Fernandes on LinkedIn. But we'll go start with Beck. How does one get a hold of you or can see your work?
Of course. So the Little Shop of Colours is the business name, and I'm on online on website, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook.
Is that littleshopofcolours.com?
The
Little Shop of Colours.
The littleshopofcolours.com.au.
Yep, cool. Shane?
Yeah, Facebook as Collaborate Construction, LinkedIn Shane Long, or as of this week, Collaborate Construction is going to have its own page.
Nice.
And website Collaborate Construction.
Haven't got on TikTok or Instagram yet.
Apparently, I don't have the voice for it.
Oh, well, you don't need voice for TikTok. You just need dance moves, right?
That's a jig, mate.
That's enough for another podcast, right? Henry?
You can find me at henrywong.com.au, as well as LinkedIn and Facebook at the Henry Wong team. So on LinkedIn, I've got over 11,000 people that follow me.
Awesome. Again, if you're getting value, please share it. It doesn't cost you anything. Thanks for listening and watching, and see you all on the next episode. As always, the information on the show is very general in nature. If you'd like to speak more about your current situation, you can contact me using the details below. Thank you for listening.